Can you comment on the power of language? You brought it up that the general sentiment when broadcasters used to talk about black players, athletes, they used to never use the words thinkers, strategists, smart, intelligent. They used to only use the word athletic, implying that they can be physically gifted, but mentally maybe not, right? In recent years, the debate over political correctness has come to the fore, and there's a lot of emphasis on the language we use and the words we use. How important do you think language is? Do you think it's as important as being out there in the trenches, fighting the fight, or do you think it's a supplemental part of it?
I think they have to go together. I think that if you're not going to win a freedom movement or expand rights just by fighting over language, I think language is incredibly important, and all political struggles involve in part struggles of language. I mean, just think in the abortion debate, pro-choice and pro-life, those are both euphemisms.
Yeah.
You know, one is in favor of legalized abortion, one is against legalized abortion, but the partisans choose euphemisms to try to say, hey, look, who could be against choice or who could be against life? Yeah. Against life. And so there's always a battle about language, but you also have to have, you have to hit the bricks. You have to have the boots on the ground. You have to mobilize your people in order to successfully make change. It's not just going to be by fighting over the words that are being used. And I think one of the things I also learned very vividly from writing about Hubert Humphrey and the civil rights movement of the 1940s in Into the Bright Sunshine is that there's a necessary synergy between political action inside and mass mobilization outside, that neither one is sufficient by itself, that you can have a big mass movement and it still may not result in political gains. But also you can have people who are politically astute, and if they don't feel pressed by a mass movement, they're going to be more moderate or even more complacent. And that right after the Democrats endorsed civil rights in 1948, there's this great exchange of letters I've read between Hubert Humphrey and people in A. Philip Randolph's labor union, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, and each one is basically complimenting the other. You know, the people from the Black Labor Union are thanking Humphrey for his incredible, bold, and eloquent speech. And Humphrey's writing to the Black Labor Union people and saying, I couldn't have done it without you. Saying I couldn't have done this without you out there outside protesting, without this threat of draft resistance. And the two things were working in different ways for the same end. And that's, I think, one of the real political life lessons from what I wrote about in 1948. And I think the other important lesson of the way Humphrey operated, both in the Democratic Convention, but also as mayor of Minneapolis, is that he was great at putting together coalitions. And he, for instance, Minneapolis was considered the most anti-Semitic city in the country before he became mayor. It was one of the most racist cities in the North. And Humphrey ran amazingly on a civil rights agenda and won. And then he had faced a city council that didn't want to really legislate on civil rights. And what he did was put together what he called a citizens committee, which was a group of basically volunteers to help shape public opinion. And he brought in people from labor and management, Republicans and Democrats, Christians and Jews, whites, blacks, Nisai, Japanese Americans, Mexican Americans, indigenous people, men and women. And a lot of them differed on many other issues. A lot of them were adversaries on other issues, particularly the labor and management people or the Democratic and Republican office holders. But they could agree that they all thought there should be progress on civil rights. And he didn't ask for a loyalty oath from the people in order to be in his coalition. He asked for them to commit to the one thing they did agree on. And I think that's also a really, really, really important lesson about making political progress.